But anyway, good morning. Welcome. So Dave's got a new haircut. Welcome. There we go.
I
Welcome everybody to Talking Niagara this morning. We are well, obviously with what happened at the weekend, we're kind of talking about the Iran airstrike.
war and more. It's more than just an airstrike. It's a major war.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I know, but what started with an airstrike. So basically, Khomeini is dead, and other top security officials have been killed, according to Al Jazeera, and other news broadcasters.
Well, the head of the military is dead. Khomeini is dead. 40 of the topmost military and political people are dead. It is amazing to me that they were in vulnerable positions, that somehow they had convinced themselves, according to U.S. intelligence, that they felt that the U.S. would not bomb during the day. So I guess they waited till they went back home or something during the day, and then they bombed them. And it seems to be incredible to me why these officials did not regard themselves as that vulnerable when the U.S. fleet's parked next door, and they know at any time that Israel could bomb them.
And especially since it was, well, I wonder whether they were thinking US threatened to bomb the previous weekend, and didn't, and instead bombed this weekend.
Well, they would have had to known that Trump was going to do something with that fleet. He was never going to put it there and not do anything with it.
Yeah.
If he backed away, it would have looked like the Iranians won, and he couldn't do that.
Yeah.
And he wasn't going to leave it there because it cost a lot of money just to leave a fleet there.
Yeah.
Plus, so they know you're going to do something. I think it was just like with Hezbollah and the others. They made it look as if they were going to do some peace negotiations, and they didn't really intend to carry on with the peace negotiations. Like Trump said, we offered them a deal and they didn't want it, and then they did and they didn't, and all that. I don't think they had any intention of making a deal. I think because the Omanis, who were sort of intermediaries, said, oh, they were close to a deal, getting close to a deal. And they kept saying that kind of thing. So I think that put a lull into the Iranians, figuring, well, they had more time. But still, why wouldn't they, having seen what has gone on in the other wars and how remarkable the American and Israeli intelligence is? I mean, they were killing Hamas negotiators right inside Iranian compounds, supposed to be safe compounds. So why on earth did they ever think they were safe enough to be anywhere close to
that's exactly the thought that I had. We've seen them kill Hamas leadership under the protection of Iran. So why would Iran's leaders think they were anyway safe? Right. Yeah.
Well, they killed Nasrallah in exactly the same way. Yeah. They were pretending to do negotiations. They were offering things, and they were waiting for Nasrallah to get together with all his top leaders in that bunker, and so they made an offer and hoping that Nasrallah would go and start discussing it. That's exactly what they did. And as soon as they got there to discuss whatever peace offer was up, they blew them to smithereens. Yeah. I don't understand why the Iranians didn't learn a lesson from that. I mean, no one's crying that the Khomeini had died. No one's crying at all about that.
Oh, I know what you're saying.
It was like when Saddam Hussein was hanged. Nobody really cared much about that. But the problem is who's going to take over. This is the United States protecting itself in the world against WMDs. We find a lot of lies coming out of the United States.
At the moment, At the moment, according to Al Jazeera, at least 555 people have died. A US jet has this morning crashed in Kuwait.
Well, it's obviously, look, it's a Tehran. Iran is a mouse. The United States is an elephant, and it's got its baby elephant buddy beside it, Israel, and they're just tromping all over Iran. And the mouse is trying to fight back. It's biting the toenails of these big, huge megaloths, lion or huge kind of elephant type powers. I don't know how effective they're going to be. There's been, I think it's the death toll is over 700 now in Iran. There's been a few people killed in Israel. There's been a few people killed in other countries in and around the Gulf, which is, terrible. There've been at least 3 U.S. service people killed so far. For an operation of this size, that's really kind of very low, but still innocent people are being killed. I mean, they killed 40 kids. They killed 40 schoolgirls with their super accurate missiles. Well, how could it be so super accurate when you missed your target altogether and you killed 40 schoolgirls?
The problem here is U.S. military have got the same kind of penchant for missing as the U.S. cops. It's like, well, we will shoot the people and then we'll ask questions afterwards, right?
Yeah, but who knows? I think it was an Israeli missile, but they're all American. Now, how much is this going to cost the American taxpayer? The wars in the Middle East have cost the American taxpayer trillions and trillions of dollars.
Yeah,
Afghanistan, Iraq, the continuing saga of and Iran has cost the U.S. taxpayer bajillions of dollars. It's cost them an incredible amount of money supporting Israel. Israel buys all its weapons from the United States, but doesn't really buy the weapons from the United States. The United States gives them to them, and tells everybody, "Oh well, they're buying our weapons. They're not buying them. They're being given to them."
So here's the question of the day: how's the peace board doing?
How's the what? Peace board? Yeah, they got their work cut out for them right now. You've got. I don't think. I don't think Trump's going to get that Nobel Peace Prize after all.
Rick is saying that Russia is now backing Iran. I haven't seen that in the news, but okay. The other thing is the BBC is reporting that oil prices have jumped and shares have fallen as conflict escalates. And in fact, actually, they also stated that whilst oil prices jumped 10%, and natural gas prices have jumped 25%, they've actually came back down during the course of the weekend as well.
Yeah, they haven't. There's no panic yet on the market, but it's seriously, the oil companies are going to use any excuse to bump the oil price up, and this is a better reason than most. Depending on who you're listening to, 20 to 25% of the entire world's oil comes out of the Strait of Hormuz. I think about 90% of Saudi oil is goes that way. Of course, Iran, Iraq, all kinds of oil goes that way. The ships that are being allowed through the Strait of Hormuz right now are the Chinese ones.
The ones that actually Saudi also ships probably half its oil out of the Red Sea as well, remember?
No, 90% of it goes through the other way because their oil fields are in the other side of the country.
I know they're mainly in the north, but there's still some that are towards the south. Anyway. Yeah.
Well, anyway, according to the article I read, it was this morning. I think it was 90% of the oil goes via that.
It's one of the biggest shipping lanes in the world. We often talk about other touch points like the Suez Canal and the English Channel and the Straits of Gibraltar. They're all very, very big, major shipping thoroughfares. But Straits of Hormuz is probably one of the most important, probably the most important in the world.
Yes, and I read something there that somebody said something about sleeper cells in Texas.
Sleeper
That one of the
cells,
biggest worries is sleeper cells being awoken in the United States, and I really don't think they have much to worry about there. You might get a few lone wolf actors, but I think that whole sleeper cell thing has been over, a fear mongering thing that's been overused. I can't. There is a huge Iranian population in the United States, as there is in Canada, because
well, I would think also that those Iranian population would generally be, most of them came here because they were unhappy with the regime in Iran. So most of them would be overjoyed that that regime is gone.
well, back around 1980 or 81 or something like that, I was with a friend of mine, and I happened to be at McMaster University where there was a party, and I was invited to it. And in that party there were Iranians. I was dancing with an Iranian girl. The trouble with the dancing with an Iranian girl, you had like about 6 Iranian guys looking at you with daggers, and so I was chatting with them, and so I was talking to them, and some of them had escaped the Shah, had to leave because they were being persecuted by the Shah, and the others were worried about the new regime under the Khomeini, although the full extent of that hadn't really come out at that particular time, but it was going to be very clear that the freedoms they were thinking they were going to get from that revolution wasn't going to happen.
Yeah, and a different Khomeini than the current one, but obviously.
Yeah. So anyway, when I started talking to them, and she started telling me stuff, the six men with dagger eyes would go shh, and then she would just change her answer completely, and I'd have to look at those guys all the time, And so that relationship didn't develop too well. I could tell you that, despite the fact that her and I liked each other. And I don't think it was just because they disliked me. I think it was they were very, very cautious about everything they said. And I could tell that they were nervous just by talking, And it was really just kind of small, what's going on in Iran, that kind of thing, and how's the country going?
At that time, probably they were afraid of things like secret police being here as well.
Yes. Yeah, there. Of course, there are spies everywhere.
Yeah.
So the sleeper cell thing, I think, is overblown in the United States. They said that the sleeper cells were going to try to assassinate Donald Trump. Well, I don't really believe that much, because there was 2 guys that almost killed him, real amateur bunglers. And if they had professional hitmen or people that really knew what they were doing, they would have been able to kill Trump, probably several times before he got the proper protection he should have had from the government. And so the idea that they sent out an assassination squad, they must have been pretty dumb if a couple of bunglers could get close enough to Trump to kill him. But didn't do it just because they didn't know how to use their weapons well enough, or they stuck out like a sore thumb in a golf course.
All right.
Can you imagine that guy in the golf course? Can you imagine if it was a pro in there, somebody who knew what was he doing?
Yeah. So York Regional Police estimate that 40 to 45,000 Canadians of Iranian origin were present at a rally in Richmond Hill on Saturday. So a lot of people gathering, saying that they were overjoyed by the U.S.-Israeli intervention in Iran. Of course, it's going to take a lot to actually change the situation in Iran. Especially since these people demonstrating are unlikely to return to Iran anyway.
The problem here is, of course, there's being overjoyed. You can imagine the Iranian regime just killed 7,000 protesters. It killed 7,000 protesters. I mean, the U.S. News agencies like to call it 32, 33,000. That's really not the case. It was more around 7,000, but that's awful. 7,000. So there's going to be nobody that's going to shed any tears for the Khomeini. And not only that, when it was announced in Iran that the Khomeini had died, there was huge amounts of cheers from a lot of buildings. People came out on their balconies, I guess, and started cheering. And that was recorded. But can they actually take over the country? Now, Trump has said, okay, we're going to bomb the crap out of the place, and then after we stop bombing, take over the country. But there is no real organized group that can do that. The army is still loyal to the revolution, and they're about the only real organized group that could take over the government. And if they did, how would we be assured that the country would turn into something more reasonable, a less less terror sponsoring regime? I don't think they have the ability to sponsor terrorism around the world much anymore. And remember, a lot of that sponsorship of Hezbollah and Hamas and the Houthis were more to put up a shield around themselves to protect themselves from direct attack, where their proxies could do a lot of their dirty work for them. It remains to be seen who is going to be able to take over. Right now, it looks as if the United States and Israel are going to bomb hundreds and hundreds of times. There's already thousands of bombs and Tomahawk missiles have gone. You got to ask yourself, how much is this costing the taxpayer, as I've said before? But aside from that, there's only so much they can bomb. They could keep, every time a general pops up, they can get rid of them because they have this insanely advanced intelligence network. It's like leapfrogs ahead of anything prior to it.
Well,
when you can watch the Khomeini, who is supposed to be the most protected man in Iran, and you wait till he gets home and bomb him, and you know how to do it. I mean, and then take out 40 of the top leaders. Aside from that,
yeah. Well, at the end of the day, there'll be drones in the air for months over Iran anyway, taking out individuals that the US and Israel consider to be undesirable.
And are they going to do the Shah thing? Like they're talking about putting Pahlavi back in, like the Shah's son. Well, that would be dumb because the Shah was a dictator.
Yeah.
Like he was put in there as a puppet by the UK and the US so that the UK and the US could control the oil and the amounts of the oil. Well, that didn't work out, did it?
It didn't work out at all, did it? Okay. The other thing is that here Carney is basically saying Canada supports US action in destroying the nuclear program.
Yeah, this is very interesting. I really didn't expect that. I expected kind of like a kind of a thing. Well, okay, let's get the piece as fast as we can from Carney, kind of thing. But instead, what we got was, yes, we support their initiatives to destroy the nuclear, the abilities to make a nuclear bomb. Yeah, okay. But on the southern border of of Iran is Pakistan, and they do have a bomb. What's next? Are they going to go after them sometime?
The thing about bombs, of course, is that if you have people who know how to make them, it takes about 2 weeks from having all the material to actually having a bomb in production. It's not difficult to make a bomb.
No, it is difficult to make a bomb because
if you have the knowledgeable people, I said.
Yeah, well, we have been told that Iran, especially Netanyahu's told us for 30 years that Iran is within a year or two, sometimes within months, of having a nuclear bomb. For 30 years, he's told us that.
Yeah.
And he told us the same thing about Saddam Hussein and him having a bomb. We went after him for WMDs, right? And where do the lies end, though? Because they had that operation where they dropped the 12-day war, where they dropped the immense bunker-busting bombs, and Trump assured the world that the Iranians could never get their nuclear program going again. It was finished, done. They have completely destroyed the ability for the Iranians to build a bomb. And now he says, oh, well, suddenly they're at it again, making a bomb. I'm not so sure that that was the case. They are, I think Netanyahu is the smartest politician. I'm not saying great moral or ethical guy, but he has got every president to do his bidding for years and years and years. Like I said, he told the West that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction and means of which to deliver those bombs into the United States and Europe. They bought it hook, line, sinker, and they went to war, and they didn't find anything. And then the country was then hundreds of thousands of people died in the chaos that happened after that war. The U.S. got beat up pretty bad and had to leave. The same thing happened in Afghanistan. Basically, the U.S. stayed there for a long time, got slapped around, and had to leave. I mean, the initial victories are the easy one. It's what comes afterwards. That's the hard thing. Now, it looks to me that Trump is smart enough not to put boots on the ground in Iran, because that would go on forever and ever.
Yeah, that would be another Afghanistan or another Iraq.
You're right. Yeah. But it's very clear that democracy has got nothing to do with it. He says to the people of Iran, well, we're going to bomb the crap out of it, and then you can take over and the country's yours. But they're already talking about or make an arrangement with the existing government, and it's going to be about oil again. It's going to be like Venezuela. They took out Maduro like they took out the Khomeini. Well, they caught Maduro and they wiped out the Khomeini. But in Venezuela, they left the government in place and made them a client state. Are they going to do something similar to Iran? That is my question. Are they going to leave the governing system in place and make a deal with them? And it'll cost Iran a lot of oil, I think.
It may be, but of course it wouldn't have been possible to have actually captured Khomeini, and there wouldn't have been any reason to capture Khomeini because there'd be no benefit in it for the US anyway.
Well, that's not really the point. The point was take out the leader, but leave the institution in place. So they did that in Venezuela. They took out the leader and left the institution in place.
Yeah, exactly.
And actually made
that's
it
exactly what That's exactly what I was going up to, because that was the only reason to deal with that, was to actually keep that regime in place. Because in fact, a collapsing regime doesn't help anybody because all the infrastructure starts to melt.
Well, you would have. I'm not even sure the United States really wants the Iranians to rise up and take over, because that could mean a long, lengthy war, civil war in Iran, and it could disrupt things more than having Khomeini. Like Khomeini was bad, but he was the devil you knew. So they've taken him out. And are they really going to ask the Iranian people to take over and take their country back?
Yeah.
Especially when they're already talking about making arrangements with the religious government that's in place. And I think they put it something like that.
Yeah.
And how long can they keep it up? This is a very, very costly thing. I mean, they're like they say, the elephant in the U.S. is the elephant, and Israel's the baby elephant, and they're tromping all over Iran. And Iran is the mouse trying to bite back a little bit. But how much munitions do they have? How long can they keep it up?
Well, the other thing is, of course, that anything there really is going to come out of, there's a lot more kind of, I guess that America will get support from probably India in that area as well.
Well, India's worried about its oil supply, obviously, isn't it?
Sorry?
It comes through the Straits of Hormuz.
Yeah.
India's oil supply, Straits of Hormuz, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
China. You got to be careful of what you're going to be doing to China. And does this open the door for China to invade Taiwan?
That's a very good question as well. That is actually an important question. Okay, the other fallout of this is being that the president of Iran's football federation, Mahdi Taj, has said that that the Iranians are likely to be pulling out of the World Cup because of the attacks. I wonder whether it's too early to note that, because in fact, actually, with the support for Iranians around the world changing, with the changing nature of the regime that's inevitable there, does that necessarily mean that that the US will be unfriendly to Iran?
You never know. I'm more worried about individuals rather than actually the government. Well, the government's made it very difficult. U.S. government's made it very difficult because it will not allow visas to those Iranian sports officials that would come to the United States and arrange this or that, or be part of the meetings and so on.
Mm-hmm.
I would, this is another thing like the Olympics, where they use politics to punish a country and their athletes. Leave the athletes alone. I'll just keep saying that over and over again.
Yeah.
Leave the athletes alone. Leave them
but
alone.
Again, it's the Iranian Football Federation that is basically questioning whether they can even go to the United States right now.
Well, it's because of the hardships of the U.S. puts up. They're going to delay their visas. They're putting up obstacles for the coaches, the staff, and all that other stuff, and it's very hard for them to even join meetings and stuff. I would say to the Iranians, at any cost, get your athletes over there.
Yeah,
your people, the Iranian people, are going to want some kind of diversion from all this brutality that's going on,
and even
and everybody in Iran could get behind their team. I would say if possible, get there and do what you can, and hopefully you do well on the field.
Well, and obviously with teams like New Zealand and Egypt and Belgium in their group, they've not exactly got the toughest group out there. It's a group that Belgium is expected to win, but New Zealand are not exactly a newbies at this World Cup as well. Egypt have been at the World Cup a few times, but not exactly the best out of Africa. So they're full of. That's a group that is actually not full. Is not actually got many strong teams in it anyway.
Yes, which is very interesting. But I would say that.
So they got.
I would say the Iranians should send their team if possible, And not only that, I think probably Trump should be magnanimous here if he really does want to sort of offer the olive branch to the Iranian people. This is a good way to do it.
It comes through the
These
World
are the
Cup.
representative. These are the young people of Iran. They're the future of Iran, kind of thing.
Yeah, it comes through the World Cup.
Yeah, but generally speaking, I really don't like politics mixed with mixed with sports at all, and it ruins the athletes. They've put years and years and years of working on this. When Reagan, the 1980 and 1984 boycotts of the Olympics really showed me what that was all about, because half the world didn't go to one Olympics and half the world didn't go to the other, and those athletes who spent years and years and years developing their talents now were shut out because some stupid political reason that they had nothing to do with. Leave the athletes out.
Yeah, and if you're talking about the ones with Moscow and Los Angeles, Britain won the 100-meter sprint, which was kind of the craziest thing in the world, because the US didn't go to Moscow.
Yeah, really.
Yeah. Okay, here's a big question for you. So Rick is basically saying 4 cities, 12 cities, or the region. And he also says, Dave, I need your input so I can do the paperwork to go for 4 or 12. The answer is, I'm going to tell you, the answer is only one ultimately, Rick. It is the way it's going to go. And he also says, my friend Jim needs your input.
Well, I would say
I don't know whether I care to give Jim any input.
Well, I've yet to be assured that there's going to be any kind of savings with any sort of amalgamation.
That's exactly what I want to say. Yeah.
My impressions right now is that a one city model is just too much of a reach. It would be just.
It's not one city; it's one municipality. We have one regional municipality.
Well, one governance for the region, for the whole region. So I would say the next one down, four bigger cities are probably the way to go. But still, yet I still have not been assured that there's going to be any real savings. We find that our taxes are too high, but will it be any less? I don't know. So I think this has to be discussed. The thing I like about Bob Gale here, even though he's pushing the issue up front, he's not letting the dilly-dally go on forever. This has been talked about, and the region has been.
I think the region should
discussed as a unit that's really all not that efficient. And so finally, Bob Gale says, well, here's a letter. Let's get at it. Give me your ideas within 2 weeks. And of course, that put the bristles up on everyone, but he's put it out there. Yeah. So let's get it discussed. And I don't really see much movement on this.
Chris asked, don't you think amalgamating the administration would save dollars? Of course it would. Well, in theory, it would. In theory, it would. Not. I think it has to be demonstrated in practice, as Dave just basically said. And I agree with Dave, because I think that it's easy to actually say what it would mean, what you would save. Because if you go down from 12 to 4, theoretically, you can save 8 jobs, right? If you go down from 12 to 1, theoretically, you can save 11 jobs of a particular type. Right. But again, if you're talking about the administrators required to put together planning applications, you still arguably need 12 lots of administrators, because just because you've amalgamated everything into Thorold doesn't necessarily mean that you can save all those jobs, because there's still the same number of building projects going on.
Well, yeah. So like I said, the example I used last week was you're not you're not going to be able to now just drop how many snowplows you need or how
Yeah.
many operators.
Oh
You're
yeah.
still going to need the same amount. You're still going to need the same amount of people working on sewers and all that kind of thing.
And you're not
So,
going to close the Niagara Falls maintenance depot or the St. Catharines maintenance depot, because there will still be people working out of them. They'll still
well,
need
you're going to have
maintenance.
all kinds of satellite municipal stations, of course.
Yeah.
So it remains to be seen uh, if uh, if making these the amalgamations will make things efficient enough. And the articles that we read and the opinions we read last week were those that from well, one was a political scientist, right, who pointed out that most of the amalgamations that he could think of at the time did not really work out for any savings at all. Will it be a better city? Now, Chris Mooney says, what if you use a business model and mergers and acquisitions, lean down effectiveness? I'm talking about the middle managers. Yeah, you're not going to save a whole lot on anything here.
In
You're
bureaucracies,
still
middle
going to need
managers
a lot
don't
of your
go.
middle managers. You're
Yeah,
still going to
in
need the
bureaucracies,
expertise that they have already. Mm-hmm.
in bureaucracies, the middle managers are never gotten rid of, and they're the ones that naturally need to be gotten rid of, even at any time.
Well, tell me which ones you can get rid of. Okay, you might be able to say uh, human resources. Say
Yeah,
human resources.
that
Okay,
whole
let's talk
department
about
could
human
go most
resources.
likely.
If you have human resources, you might be able to cut that human resources from 13 down to 4. Say if you go for amalgamation of city, so you still have 4, but you will still have all the you then will have 4 big departments instead of 12 small ones. So
Yeah.
and how is that going? We don't know. We don't know if that's going to give us a savings or not. Yeah. So on paper, it sounds, yeah. But when the regional government was started on paper, it looked as if it was going to offer a whole lot more efficiencies. And we found that that really wasn't the case. Do we have a better governance since we went to the region? I don't know. Maybe we do. It's kind of hard for us to think back that far, but will amalgamation, centralizing things like the region did originally when it first began, that's still all up in the air. Whether or not that's going to happen, I don't know. And believe me, I don't have a yes or no. I don't have a position where a position where I think is going to be the best one. I have absolutely no idea what's going to be the best path forward. Now, my instincts, of course, just like everybody else says, centralize things, gather up all your resources in one place or 1 or 2 or 3, 4 places, and you will find efficiencies.
But let me ask you this question.
But in just about every article we've read, that hasn't really necessarily happened. And Toronto was a great example of that. Toronto got all its boroughs together, made one big city, and they really didn't save much anything.
Yeah. I was going to say, in your own personal experience, when has amalgamation, that we've seen in the history of government, we've seen concepts over time of centralization and decentralization. Are we just going through another swing in that regard?
I'm not sure because I just don't know. And we've done a lot of reading, a lot of listening about this, and I can tell you I don't know which way to go on this. It appears that the one city model I don't think would fly. So you might as well put that right out there. I don't think anyone's going to go over the one city model.
I'm going to disagree with you.
I have a feeling that it will not be considered.
And stop thinking of it as one city. It's one more a county or a regional municipality than a city.
Yeah, well, the one regional municipality instead of the four big cities, what they call them, urban areas. I don't think there's an appetite for the one centralized authority. I don't think so. Among the politicians, among the people, I believe that they think that would be a step too far. But going to a four, one sort of taking halfway there and breaking it down to 4 units, and eventually maybe moving to one administration in time. Who knows? But I don't think anyone would seriously consider the one centralized authority. But who knows? That's just my guess.
And just because you got problems about, just because you got questions about Toronto and Hamilton, the way they run, doesn't mean to say that a one city model won't work. They're actually cities more than we are. They actually have a single hub, if you like, downtown Hamilton, downtown Toronto.
It's I don't know. You'd find, like I said, I haven't got a clear notion of which is the best way to go here.
Yeah.
We do know that we're paying a lot of taxes. We do know that government is costing us a lot of money. But in our particular region, the police are the ones that are consuming the most. I can't even think of that being reduced. The hugest expense the region has are police. And whether it's 1, 4, or 12, that cost will not go down.
Yeah. And again, let's be clear about this: isn't the police budget in Toronto, the police budget in Hamilton is still the number one spending item that those respective cities have got to spend out on, isn't it?
I don't know. I don't know what the situation is there. I only know down here, and we find that if you really examine all the things that the region puts money in, the different municipalities and the region, the money in which they put in there, I don't think the major expenditures will ever be reduced by much. The administration, you might be able to find efficiencies here and there, but I think in the overall picture wouldn't be a whole lot. But you got to situation. Well, was it better for the region to come up with a police force rather than each different city having a police force? I remember going through Dunnville, where Dunnville had its own police force. You know what I mean? It didn't. Now it's part of the Haldeman, I think. But anyway, so there are certain things like that. Having one police force for the region rather than a whole bunch of separate ones, that would make sense. But what about other things? What about your tree crews, right? You want you're still your tree crew in Niagara Falls. Are you going to send it all the way down to Fort Erie to do trees or whatever?
You want them localized, don't you? The tree crews. You want the Fort Erie-based tree crew to stay in Fort Erie, the one in Niagara Falls to stay in Niagara Falls. Deal with all the trees in Niagara Falls. If you're sending them all over the place, they're only going to get 1 or 2. If you've got a dozen trees to cut, and you're sending them all over the place to do it, it's not very efficient time-wise, is it?
No. So there are. But on the other hand, if you have a major problem in one sector, you can bring in all kinds of your tree crews from all over the place.
True.
If you have an emergency. Yeah. But these are exceptions. The problem here is our politicians have really got to do their homework. Right now, you find a lot of resistance to it. The very idea that Bob Gale is saying, here, come on, let's start making a decision, has put the hackles up on a lot of the local politicians. But let's face it, this has been on the discussion table for a very long time, and really nobody's made a move one way or another on it. We should come to the point where we make a few decisions on this, and basically everyone's trying to find efficiencies. I have to be assured that if with the amalgamate, your bill probably won't go up, but it might not go down. So, and of course, there's the opinions of many that even though we have a lot of politicians, we have a lot of approachable politicians. We have 126 politicians in the Niagara region, which makes them very close to the people. They are approachable much more than they would be in a bigger outfit where you might have like 20 or 30 politicians, and it's going to be difficult to reach them or communicate with them. So there's that aspect of it. Even though we have a lot of politicians, they are at least approachable, you know, that less isolated. That's one of the situations there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the things I hear.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Canada is going to become one of the largest suppliers of liquid natural gas in the world.
That remains to be seen. It's a nice article. It's very encouraging. Right now, as you can see, like over and over and over again, oil, LNG, and all that is vulnerable. It's vulnerable to politics everywhere in the world. Now, Canada has an ample supply of all of that, and is a safe country that will deal with you as safe and can deliver oil, and you can rely upon it to oblige its contracts, and you don't have to worry about a war getting in the way because we're in a very safe neighborhood. However, we don't have the capacity. We don't have the capacity. The planning was very bad, as you even remember when the Ukrainian war began, and the German prime minister came over here and was talking to Justin at the time, Justin Trudeau, and said, "Oh, can you guys start getting us some natural gas, because our natural gas tap is being closed off from Russia. We don't want to rely on Russia. Can you guys step up your production?" And Justin was not interested in it. He was more the environmental prime minister at the time. But we find different people.
Different with Carney, though. It's different because he's focusing in on things like this.
Yeah, he knows the foolishness of an idea. This is an opportunity where Canada can, and the world needs this. The world needs it in a big way. And well, the number one thing, if you can convert people away from coal to natural gas, that's a plus. Even though both are climate changing chemicals going into the air, natural gas puts out a lot less, so that's a plus. It's a lot cleaner than coal, although it's not. I would say it was a clean, but it still does environmental damage.
But cleaner, yeah.
So it's a better thing. So, but we don't have the infrastructure. We don't. Our planning was terrible on this. It was very, very clear. It seems, as you read about it now, that the world was going to need this, and Canada was in a situation it could have exploited this market, but it didn't. And it seems that its decisions were weighed and held back by environmental considerations, the type of environmental consideration that didn't make sense. So we're not going to put out any natural gas because we don't want to make carbon rich fuel out there, but it's available everywhere else. So we're not going to sell it, look like saints, but somebody else will sell it, so it doesn't make a difference at all to the environment.
And that, of course, is what Carney's tuned into, because Carney knows that there's a market out there for liquefied natural gas, and that Canada needs to be a part of that market.
Yeah, so the article sounds really good, and it's kind of encouraging to think, oh yeah, right on. This is something, we've got an ample resource here, and we can sell it. We can sell it for top dollar. And then when you look deeper down, hey, wait a minute, we really haven't really planned very well for this, even though it was very clear that this market was going to be all over. There's going to be this market available to us, and yet we did not plan well enough. And now we're trying to catch up and exploit the market that is out there. But if we had planned better, we would have been already running, having a great time collecting all those.
Canada is currently the world's 6th largest exporter of LNG, which currently lagging behind Qatar and Australia.
Well,
I didn't know Australia.
Qatar's got a huge amount of oil, and of course, it's got a huge amount of investment, and it's got no resistance at all to development. Unfortunately, in Canada, we've got all this resistance. If it isn't the environmentalist, it would be the native groups. It would be this and that. BC will protest the ports and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot more hurdles for us to jump over before we get any kind of development going. And I don't know. It seems to me that when we finally get our LNG all worked up and ready to go, everyone else converts to atomic power somewhere, you know.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's basically it's ongoing. We shall see what happens. But of course, one of the things we've got to realize is, for example, India is energy hungry, and they're willing to buy whatever Canada is available. Canada can offer, according to one report out of this meeting.
Yeah, it looks like India says, you provide it, we'll buy it. We want it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, if you give us what you got. And unfortunately, as I said, we hadn't planned very well. We could have exploited that market incredibly right now. India is a booming nation right now. It's like China. It's on the rise. It's huge population on the rise, and it has, we have that market we could use. Like, I mean, there's 1.2 billion people there. They're going to use a lot of gas, you know? So, but we kind of dropped the ball on that, but can we catch up? Can we pick up that fumble and go? That remains to be seen. But the markets are there, they're assured. So the investment.
Well, we've got
the big thing about this kind of thing is you have to attract investment. And if you're telling their investors, look at this, we've got an endless market here. We have a market that would take everything we want to produce. So your investment is secured because it has a market. However, it's the political hurdles that we have to get over.
Yeah. And again, for example, Marinvest Energy is pursuing a project out of Baie-Comeau in Quebec, and they want to build plant a pipeline coming out of Quebec to be exported out of Newfoundland, along with the oil reserves from there as well, right?
Yeah, well, I think Quebec has quite a bit of natural gas that they haven't exploited yet.
Yeah,
they've made a few discoveries somewhere along the St. Lawrence River, as I remember, and they just pretty well capped them because they didn't need the energy because they have abundance of hydroelectric energy, so they don't need it. But the very idea that they might be able to exploit that natural gas now and putting them out of Baie-Comeau, but it's also probably tapping into the resources off the shore of Newfoundland, you know. But the biggest takeaway of this is that we did not prepare properly for this. We could have, but now we do. We can. Canada government or Canadian businesses can go to the world and say, you want to invest in something? Right here is where you want to go. Invest in our LNG or other oil products that we're demanding. Now, the only thing the investors are going to do is, well, yeah, you got as much as you make, you can sell, but can you get it to port? Are you going to get resistance from BC port authorities? Are you
I was going to say, given you've got Quebec with LNG, then BC isn't. I'm not saying BC isn't a hurdle, but BC isn't as big a hurdle as you were stating.
It may be because they have already thrown up a lot of resistance to oil pipelines, ports. one of the ports that one of the oil pipelines was going to.
Oh, you got to read this next comment.
Okay. The safe place to be in this world is North Korea. Yes, because there's no way the United States is going to attack them, no matter. They've got missiles that can reach the United States. They've got atomic warheads that can reach the United States, but nobody's going there to stop them from doing anything. Yeah, I think I'd be very, very safe in North Korea right now.
Yeah. All right. All right. Any further thoughts?
Yeah. How much does it cost to get a plane ticket to North Korea?
Yeah. Okay. So
I'm not joking. I was thinking of going there just as a tourist. They do have a tourist program, and I wouldn't mind just going there to see. Of course, you're only going to see what they show you, but still, it'd be kind of interesting because I can't see a country like North Korea surviving another generation like it is. It has to open up. So,
yeah.
We'll see.
Well, I can't see North Korea and South Korea rejoining in the immediate future.
No, but you know what? There could be a lot more connections because North Korea is looking at the sort of capitalist communist successes that China's had.
Yeah.
So China's has taken capitalism and kind of converted it to live alongside communism. Yeah. Laos has done the same thing. Vietnam has had a very successful communist capitalist transition. And they are now prosperous countries, but Laos maybe not. They're just starting. But Vietnam is very prosperous right now. China, of course, is hugely prosperous. So North Korea, in its kind of feudal type of communism, I can see that it's missing the boat here. So they will probably try to convert more towards a capitalist communist system. And when they do that, it's going to be impossible for them not to open up the country a bit. And I would think that the business trade and business and cooperation between North Korea and South Korea would open up because they're going to need that. You know, that if they're looking for a capitalist type of investment, they're going to need it. And there's a lot of it might come from South Korea.
Well, yeah, exactly. So South Korea's in the best place to do it. But I think there's so many divisions between North and South Korea that I don't know. It could take a long time to repair that.
Oh, you're not going to get a political unity, but you'll find you'll probably find that once the capitalist communist thing starts going, it's then reliant on markets. Yeah. You know, and then once it's reliant on markets,
but it's not like what happened in Germany, where East Germany collapsed and people were leaving East Germany in droves at one point. You know, it basically that is not likely to happen in the immediate future with Korea.
Look, if they could, they would. Look, North Koreans would escape south if they can, and they do. But that door is usually more close to them. Where they're escaping to, believe it or not, is China.
Yeah.
In northern China, the standard of living is a lot better than it is in Korea, and it's not all that great. So northern China is still an area that still has to sort of catch up. But nevertheless, North Koreans are crossing the border. That's an issue between the Chinese and the North Koreans. There's a bunch of North Koreans have come into China for a better life. So you can imagine how bad it must be in North Korea if they're going to China for a better life.
Yeah.
The refugees to China.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Yeah. So I think we're kind of done for the day.
Yes, and here we go.
I do see we're going to have to talk a little bit about Ukraine, I think, tomorrow.
Yeah, that whole thing is being put on. It looks as if the strategy of going after these shadow fleets of illegal oil, the 1,400 tankers. And I can't really believe they haven't done anything about that in the past, particularly with the sanctions they have all over the world. So they're going to go after this 1,400 tanker shadow fleet, which is keeping Russia alive and also has kept a lot of money going into Iran. And where's the other one? Probably one or two other countries, at least Russia and Iran are the two main ones. And Venezuela was the third. Now Venezuela is out of the picture. The shadow fleet can't go there, but that may be the choke point, because now Russia really is in financial trouble. When the war started with Russia and Ukraine, everyone says, well, Russia's going to run out of money within a year. Well, that didn't happen. Well, everybody was kind of like, wink, we know all about the shadow fleet, and everybody's making mass amounts of money on it. So when it's becoming very clear that this was going on, that they're after the shadow fleet, it's all about oil. Whether it's Iran, whether it's the shadow fleet, whether it's about Ukraine and Russia, it's oil, oil, oil.
Yeah. You know, Belgium and France are in on that, but we'll talk more about that tomorrow.
Yeah. And in the meantime, I'm going to bring up Gaza like I do all the time. Because of this war happening, of course, the borders are closed again and less supplies are getting into Gaza. And, you know, of course, less and less people can see what's going on there. It's just another excuse for them to clamp down. There's no way Hamas is going to be able to rise from the dead and support its ally, Iran, but they're going to use that as an excuse anyway to make the people of Palestine suffer more. And sadly, that's the way the world is. And the board of peace, whoever put that word early in the show, where's the board of peace? Yeah, I'd like to know where the board of peace is right now.
That was Mike. All right.
Mike, yeah. Anyway, without further ado, I bid you adieu. Pray for peace.